This is not your ordinary delinquent anime. It's about life. No, it's bigger than that. It's about the universe. Scratch that. It's a conversation told with your fists. And what can be more manly than that? These aren't fights that you're watching. It's a conversation between two guys. It's just how guys work things out. It's our way of showing affection. And that's not gay because they beat each other up in a physical battle that actually turns on both opponents. Actually, you know what? It might be gay. That being said, this is a pretty damn entertaining show. It might confuse you at first. You're not sure what's really going on. Is this just Tokyo Revengers? Why is the main character such a tsundere? What is really so different about this anime to other action and delinquent stories that we haven't already seen? And apart from the stellar animation, is this show really that good? For me, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and it wasn't just because of the action. I feel like they were exploring something deeper. It wasn't all just cool fights and cutting edge visuals. Now, to many people, this show may just be that all style, no substance. The characters are familiar and follow familiar patterns that we've all seen before. Hell, the concept is a bunch of high schoolers acting like the Yakuza. These guys are kids and putting themselves in the most extreme superhero fights, with morals and codes well beyond their years. I mean, where is the teacher? Where are the police when all of these fights escalate? Who is in charge of this town? Is any of this ever going to be explained? Well, I guess it doesn't have to be explained. The story is quite straightforward. It follows an outcast who seeks to be the strongest in Furin High School. He is an angry and confused kid due to his upbringing, which still remains secretive, and he quickly learns that being the strongest is not all there is to life. Look, I don't think this show is breaking new ground and is the next big show. It knows what it wants to be. I'll admit, at around episode 7 during the peak of the tournament arc, I was unsure where the story was heading. It felt like it was going to be a straight good versus evil, protectors versus aggressors type of storyline. It actually humanizes the other antagonists in a way that confuses both me and the main character Sakura. The world of Windbreaker is seen through the perspective of an outsider. We as an audience are witnessing the construction of this world as outsiders just like Sakura. Now in these type of animes, the main character doesn't necessarily have to be the most interesting character. They usually have the indestructible chosen one syndrome which allows them to succeed in almost every obstacle they face. Supporting characters tend to be more intriguing or charismatic, and I would say that this is true about Windbreaker. Sakura is not a bad character by any means. His volatile personality is quite comical and entertaining. His background of being an outcast adds a factor of relatability, though his hot-headedness does become quite overwhelming and he is constantly aggressive with everyone to the point where it becomes unrealistic. Because of his unusual looks, he's used to people judging and shunning him, which made him act all distant and tough. We don't really get to know why he is so distant. It can't just be the fact that he has white and black hair. We don't know if he has parents who his guardian is. There's a lot left to be desired in regards to his background. You can tell he is insecure and afraid of people getting close to him. I suppose this will all be revealed in due time. What I would like to have seen more of was to see him lose a fight. He looks unstoppable and hasn't been defeated. He's fighting people much bigger than him and pretty much winning with ease. And this leads to a problem I had with the show. The way Windbreaker balances comedy and drama is quite abrupt. I think what I liked about the first few episodes was how it didn't take itself serious. It was embracing the ridiculous nature of the situation. A bunch of students protecting their town from gangs. It's such a nonsense concept you have to make it a comedy. No way can this work if it's completely straight-faced from start to finish. You understand the formula of this show, and then as the fighting tournament happens between Bofrin and rival Shishitorin, the tone changes. The backstories of each character adds depth and makes them more interesting. You understand the history between certain characters, how someone like Joe became this frightening and merciless person not only to his enemies, but to his own gang members. But the way this whole town is constructed doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to be sad how these characters ended up the way they did. But another part of you is saying this is ridiculous. I mean, I felt like I was repeating myself here after each episode. This world makes no sense. It's too wacky to be dramatic and emotional. The action is the star of the show, right? But after this arc concluded, you see a different side to how these fights are constructed. The meaning behind these fights, the reason why they fight, how it defines you and the way people see you. Do they respect you and want to follow you as their leader? Or do they think you're a crazy psychopath who needs to be checked into a madhouse? Umeme is a guy who Sakura wants to overthrow to become the leader of Bofrin. However, when Sakura witnesses how Umeme defeated Choji, it was entirely different to the way Sakura approached his fight with Togame. Sakura's antisocial vibe is basically his way of dealing with constant discrimination. Even though he's got a strong sense of right and wrong about who he fights and why, his sole purpose for fighting is to be simply the strongest. And this journey is one that is blinded until he meets Omeme. Omeme is a laid-back, friendly guy with a warm personality. His peers and subordinates see him as a confident and charismatic leader, though his casual style can sometimes seem a bit too relaxed for someone in his position. It confuses Sakura. To him, he is the exact opposite of a gang leader. He leads by strength, kindness, and respect as opposed to fear, which is how Choji runs Shishitorin. During their fight, Sakura sees that Omeme is not trying to beat Choji bloody to the core to prove that he and Bofrin are the superior gang. It wasn't about conquer or be conquered, survival of the fittest. Omeme has a different attitude. He is extremely supportive of his team and always cheers them on. He is attentive and caring, knowing personal details like the names and backgrounds of even the lowest ranking members of Bofrin. Besides his team, Omeme is really invested in the well-being of the whole community. This was a big part of his original plan for reforming Furin High and starting Bofrin. Everyone in town knows and loves him, and he gets a lot of praise and attention from the locals. When it's time to fight though, his usual easygoing manner vanishes, and he becomes incredibly serious and intimidating. This change can be so intense that it even shocks his allies. Despite this, his caring and empathetic side still shines through. He sees fighting as just another way to communicate and believes it can help him connect with his opponents better than words alone. And this is really what surprises Sakura and teaches him a new way to approach fights. Choji and Joe have this intimate introspective reconciliation that is quite heartfelt. It's discussing how the two rejected one's true feelings to serve a greater purpose, or in Choji's case, to simply not serve anything and just embrace chaos. Both of them acknowledge their wrongs and make up, and it's all very touching, enough to make a grown man cry and all. But are we really just gonna ignore that this Choji guy tried to rip Omeme's throat out with his teeth? I mean, that's not someone suffering with mental health, that's just psychotic. He needs to be in prison, no, scratch that, a mental hospital. And it isn't even acknowledged in this show. Omeme is just consoling him as someone's teeth are digging into his neck. This type of incident is where the show feels tonally inconsistent. I mean, the next episode they're all having dinner with each other like nothing happened. I think if they want to explore more human elements that are relatable, take out the scene where a guy is sucking blood straight out of Castlevania. Sakura, an outsider, would feel rightfully inclined to question Omeme's methods. But it's interesting they show this world through his eyes, an outsider. He talks tough and keeps to himself when he's not throwing punches. He's more comfortable fighting his way out of problems since other types of interactions make him awkward. This allows Omeme to fill that older brother role which Sakura has been missing. He starts to understand that fights aren't all you need to overcome a conflict. There is more to the way we treat people. Sakura gets really uneasy when people are kind or accepting towards him. Even though he often ends up helping others, he doesn't handle gratitude well. He's pretty clueless socially, but he's super sensitive when it's come to helping people around him. He's scared of forming bonds and lacks confidence in anything but his fighting skills, thinking that's all he's good for. After discovering that Bofrin uses its strength to protect the town and that delinquents are a key part of Makochi's community, Sakura starts warming up to the idea. Eventually, he begins to see his fellow students as comrades instead of rivals. After 13 episodes, Windbreaker has set up an intriguing future, and I hope that it carries on the momentum from the last 2 episodes. I think this show can go in 2 directions. Either it will become your typical delinquent anime where the fights and animation are the only highlight, or it can delve deeper into the relationships between the characters, making for an emotional and surprisingly thought-provoking story. Also, it feels like Sakura and his peers will rise to the top with considerable ease and will probably resolve all their problems with gangs in the same way. I hope that these conflicts that arise become more complicated and actually split the gang into opposing rivals. This would be a lot more intriguing, but honestly I was not bored by this anime. It was confusing at times and didn't make sense, but I got over that pretty quickly and enjoyed the energy of the fights and comedy combined. While Windbreaker does suffer from tonal inconsistencies and sometimes unrealistic scenarios, it still manages to keep viewers engaged through its dynamic fight scenes and moments of genuine emotional depth. The series strikes a balance between action and introspection, revealing the personal struggles and growth of its characters. Furthermore, the show hints at broader themes of community and belonging, suggesting that strength is not just about physical prowess but also about the bonds we form and the respect we earn. The potential for deeper storytelling is there, as the narrative could evolve to address more complex conflicts and character developments. Ultimately, Windbreaker is an entertaining anime that stands out not just for its impressive animation and fight choreography, but also for its attempt to explore meaningful themes within the framework of a delinquent story. Whether it fully realizes its potential remains to be seen, but it certainly offers more substance than one might initially expect. For those willing to look beyond the surface, Windbreaker provides a surprisingly insightful and engaging viewing experience.